So the first thing is when you're talking or getting AI to output something for your business, a lot of times when you initially ask it for something, it gives you something that's pretty generic. It doesn't appear like it's from your company. So we'll kind of show you an example of that here. If you ask ChatGPT or whatever, Claude or Copilot, Gemini, whatever you're using to give it, so what I did in this case is just say, hey, here's my company website. Give me a short document on what we can do as a marketing document for our customers. And it doesn't do a terrible job, goes out to our website, knows the name of our company. Like, that's all I set it to do. I didn't give it any kind of other instructions whatsoever. Goes out, pulls a list. We get a random list here. You see there's a bunch of kind of known AI phrasing in here. Anybody that would read this, they would be like, oh, yes, this is most likely AI because it's, just because of the way the words are. But it does a decent job. It lists a decent number of the services we do. It kind of lists our cybersecurity stuff, but it doesn't really know anything about us. It doesn't have our logo in here. It doesn't have our fonts. It doesn't use our colors. It's just very generic output. So one of the things that the branding skill, that HTML that you download there, if you download that and run it on your computer, what it'll do is it'll open up a web browser. It'll ask you to put in your website. It'll ask you to upload your logo, and you can upload up to 10 different pieces of marketing material or anything that you have for your company that kind of talks about how, the marketing or the services you provide for your company. And then what it'll do is it'll output this skill file to you. So before we go any further, we should probably just do a couple minutes here on what a skill is, and I'll try to do it, and you're smarter than me, so I'll hand it over to you after that. But a skill is essentially something that the AI can reference when you're talking to it. And it's smart enough to know when it needs it, for the most part. Like, we've built this skill and it'll figure it out. But essentially, when you're chatting with an AI, a skill is essentially, something that it can reference when you ask it for something. So anytime you would ask it to output anything that would be a deliverable, it will use this brand skill that you're going to create and have for yourself. And then so it'll automatically add your logo, your brand colors, the way you talk to that particular, whatever you're outputting. You probably have a better way to describe it than me, Jess, so I'll let you do it.
That's basically what it is. I use skills for everything. If it's a repeatable thing, or if I want to do any kind of design, branding, anything like that, I want a skill, because I don't want to constantly repeat myself to the AI. AI is kind of like children. And so you have to constantly repeat it. So if you give it a skill like a branding skill, and I'm telling it I want to create this document, then every document moving forward is going to have all my logos, everything on it, and I don't have to do anything. It's just automatic. So if we build out those skills for that, when it goes to create a document, it's going to say, hey, I got a skill for this. Let me pull that information and use it. And so that's kind of the way, just any other human being, if they have a skill for all the branding, then they're going to go and put those logos in there, the fonts or whatever. And then everything moving forward is going to appear that way. And so you no longer have to tell it. So you're automatically reducing your time, and you're increasing your efficiency, because now it's just done. You've said it one time and it's going to get done. Now, is it always listen and do it the right way? No. But for the majority of the time, it does, if you have it set in there the correct way. And so you'll get the output like this right here with your branding skill. I mean, you can even take it a little bit further. If you want internal documents to be one way and external documents to be another way, you can have a skill for internal documents and a skill for external documents. And so when you go to do it, the AI may say, is this going to be an internal or external document? And then it'll build it out depending on what that requirement is. Again, those guardrails that we talked about where you could customize it for your company, this is one of those, because you can have it where anyone inside of the company, when they're building out documents, has to use this brand skill. And so they won't be able to create any documents without it unless you have like specific guardrails in there. So those are some of the types of customizations that you can do to kind of help with that AI process in your company.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you hit on there, is that skills can be organizational skills. So you can have people can have skills, but you can also assign skills to entire companies. So that's why we always recommend, if you're going to roll out some sort of AI tool for your company, you always get, the business plan of that, because that'll allow you to roll out these company-wide skills. The skills then can enforce things upon the people. So it can be a branding skill, it can be security guardrails, so you can limit what people can do, as far as what they can upload, what AI can and cannot process. That can be enforced at the skill level or the entire company, which is super powerful for security and these types of branding things. So you'll see on the screen now where I took the same prompt and put it into AI, and using the branding skill, you'll now see the language is the same. It pulls the logo. It talks like we talk. It doesn't have, a bunch of AI nonsense in there. And it's all of our fonts, our colors, our information. So all this is built in that branding skill that you'll get in the, that you can download from the chat. That'll walk you through creating it. Now, before we go to the next step, I'll show you, because many of you are probably thinking, oh, well, this must be super difficult to implement a skill. In the guide that we provide to you, it walks you through on how to put a skill in all the platforms, but it is not difficult to put a skill into a platform. I'll quickly show you where, if you're using Claude, where you would do it. You just go into your settings under capabilities, and then there's a customize button here, and then you would just add the skill here, and it allows you to upload the file that you'll get when you complete that HTML that we have in the chat. It'll give you a skill file. You'll just upload it here. If you want to do it for your entire company, you would do it on the organizational side. So it's all, it's a couple of clicks to implement skills.
And if you ever have any trouble with a skill and you want it to be packaged and you're right there in it, both OpenAI and Claude, you can say, help me create a skill, and you can tell it what you want it to do. It will create the package and then give you a save button now. And then you just press save and it will save it as a skill for you. You will have to go back and manage it for the organization wise. It just does it as like your personal skill. But just being able to create that package, have the correct name on there and everything like that is a huge help. I've noticed that a lot of them, OpenAI's was a lot easier this past week. They must have updated it where you actually just get a save button and that's all you do.
Yeah. I think very shortly, it's kind of weird that they don't give you the ability to just save it right from the interface. Mm-hmm. But I definitely recommend, if you're trying to create a skill, you can use AI to create the skill. You can just say, hey, I want to create a skill that, does our company branding, or I want to create a skill that doesn't allow our people to do this. And when you're done, it'll give you the skill file. And most of them, I know Claude does this, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do in order to implement the skill. So you don't need to know anything technically about how to do it, how to create a skill, where you need to put it, because it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do to implement that skill. So that's a great one. That's our branding skill. So that HTML file that you'll download, that branding skill HTML, when you open that, it'll ask you for a couple things like we talked about, your company website, your logo, and a couple of pieces of marketing material. And when you're done and you hit the button, it's going to give you a skill file, which then you'll import into whatever. And the other thing about skills is they're universal. You can use skills in any of the AI LLMs now. They all have skill files. And the other thing that we wanted to go over today, which is another skill, which is the second 3 sets of documents that we gave you there. There's a PDF, which is just instructions, and then the second 2 files you'll need to implement for a skill. And that is to create an AI filter. So what that skill will do is it removes all known AI, conversations. Like AI always says, like, it's not this, it's that. It uses a bunch of dashes. It uses the same language to compare things. And basically, when you output any kind of material, you don't want it to sound like that. So we created an AI filter skill that basically anytime you go to output something that's going to be delivered to either internally, externally, or a PDF, a Word document, or anything that's going to be created, it can run it through this AI filter skill to remove all of that kind of nonsense. So your output doesn't read like it was written by AI. Ours internally, we have it auto update every week with new stuff, new terminology and those types of things. But this one is just a static list for, as of July of 2026. These are the common things that AI typically does and basically removes them from it being able to output anything that has any of those words or symbols or anything in it. So that is the second 3 files that are in the chat that'll help you implement an AI filter, or we call it the human voice, which creates the output that makes it sound more like a human. Jess, is there anything you wanted to add on the AI filter?
No, but I know that it can be so annoying when you don't have that AI filter with the millions of dashes that AI likes to put into the context. So just having that filter is a huge relief on not having to constantly tell it, hey, get rid of all AI terminology or verbiage and language. So it is extremely helpful in that part of it.